So since I posted this video on how much it actually costs to do the W trek, so many people have commented on the one thing, which is how do you actually go about booking this? As you know, booking this is not straightforward at all. So here's what we're going to do today. Take you through step by step in terms of how you would go about booking this, but let's start with the most important part, which is the refugios and campsites. Here's the part that trips everyone up. So the entire W trek has different campsites and refugios, but they're not all owned by the same company. They're owned by two separate companies. So every refugio and campsite in the east are owned by Las Torres, Patagonia, and everyone in the west is owned by Vertice Travel. Now, a lot of people are going to argue on which direction is better to hike in, whether it's west to east or east to west, which is what we did. But honestly, it doesn't matter. There isn't a better direction. What you need to do is just making sure that you have a refugio or campsite booked in the first place, because they do run out very quickly. So whatever availability you get when you're about to book it will then determine which direction you're hiking in. So I'm just going to take you through the first website, which is the Las Torres website. This is the landing page as you land here. The URL is lastorres.com. Just be sure that this is exactly the website that you're on, because there's quite a number of scammy websites I've heard out there. So once you land here, you can go where to stay. And if you click on it, it will show you a number of different sort of accommodations that you can stay. There's like a hotel, mountain cabins and mountain stays. It just depends on your budget and sort of your preference in terms of what to stay. But also each of these cover different sectors. I would say they use the word sector in here, but it's just basically where you would stay. So in certain campsites, so for example Central, you can stay in like a mountain stay, so like a proper either like a hostel-y type of room or a campsite. But for this purpose, I will just show you what we did, which is all the fully equipped camps that we stayed in. So you would just click here. It might take a while to load sometimes. And once you get on this page, you'll be able to see that these are all the campsites that are available under Las Torres' management. So basically you can book all of these under Las Torres' website: Central, Chileno, Cuenos, Frances, and Cerron. For our stay, we basically stayed in Chileno and Frances, just because it was what was available. And Chileno's camp is actually also the closest campsite to the towers, which is the base towers, the iconic one that you see in pictures. So it just made sense for us to stay there. So if you are ready to book, you would just go to the calendar up here. And then for this purpose, I'm just gonna click 10 to 11 of November, say there is one person, and we'll click book. So then it will pop up and take you to this page and says, where are you from? We're based in Australia. Click next. And then once you get here, you'll be able to see all the sectors actually. So you can see Central here, Frances, Cuenos, Chileno, Cerron, and the rest. So like I mentioned before, if we're aiming for Chileno, we would click search, and then it will take you to what's available. So as you can see, you can already see that the semi-equipped camping ones or just a campsite on ground is already unavailable. It also tells you what this includes. So just be sure that this is what you want. In terms of what we got a fully equipped camping setup. So it included a pitch tent, sleeping bag, and a sleeping mat for us already. So we didn't have to carry it throughout the hike. And this worked well for us. Just make sure you see that this is for one person and there's two people. In this case, we will be booking for just one person. So we would then book one person here. And then if you wanted to add on any food service that you can come with as well, you can do a full board meal or a half board meal and just add it in if you like. And then just click book here and it takes you to a payment page. But that's basically how you would book it in Las Torres. The tricky part about, and it looks straightforward, the tricky part about this whole booking process is that sometimes you would have a date set out. So say if I wanted to stay in Chileno on the 10th of November and then Frances on the 11th of November. But then once I click into Frances and see that there isn't a spot on the 11th of November for Frances, I would then need to rearrange my entire plan to work out how I can best stay at which spot to meet the hike that I'll be doing, if that makes sense. So if my plan was to do it east to west, hiking from Central up to Chileno and then staying in Chileno, then hiking to Frances, then from Frances, hike even further to Pine Grande or Glacier Grey, in that sequence and in that order. But if there isn't an availability, you can't exactly do that as well. So you just kind of have to keep playing with the dates until you get something that lines up in terms of what you want to do. So if east to west doesn't work at all. For some reason, if you can't seem to find a date that lines up after Chileno, or like you can book Chileno, you can't book Frances, and then after Frances, you can't book Pine Grande or something. In that case, you would then go back to the drawing board and see if you can do it the other way around, whether you could shift your dates and go from Pine Grande first to Frances to Chileno. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of what you'll have to do. It can be quite confusing, so you're just gonna have to play around with the dates and have flexibility with your dates as well. Now on to Vertice Travels' website. So this is the landing page and the URL is vertice.travel. Like I said before, check the URL before you actually go ahead and book it. You'll see accommodations here, and then if you drop down, there are the different refugios or campsites that you can book. The main ones being Grey and Pine Grande, for W Trek at least. You can click book now here, or you can go through the accommodations tab before. Once you get to the booking page, you'll see that there are a bunch of options. You can even book their packages if you like, but I think it's more expensive overall, and some come with a guide and some are without a guide. But again, for our demonstration here, this is what we did. We simply booked the campsites we wanted. So our initial plan was to stay at Pine Grande and then Grey to complete the full W, but because we couldn't find a spot for Grey, it was completely booked out for the period that we would be there, we decided to forego Grey camp altogether and only booked Pine Grande. So I'll show you what we did. If you click book now, it will then take you to the Pine Grande page, and then you can click book now some more. It has more information there if you wanted to read it. And then if you go one adult, and if you say you're not a Chilean resident, you click no, you continue, and then it will come up with this, which is probably the most confusing thing ever, because it then says which route would you like to do in Torres del Paine, which in this purpose we're doing the W circuit. So just click W circuit, and then it will go, this is the classic and most popular circuit of Torres del Paine. From where would you like to begin the W circuit? Which can be incredibly confusing, because if you were to come from the east, like I mentioned before, like from Chileno, Frances, it will say, where would you like to begin? You would think, but I'm coming from Chileno or from Central. Why do I need to click Grey or Pine Grande? But like I said before, the W Trek is owned by two companies, which means they are only thinking of their company at the moment. So when you're in Vertice, where is your first starting point? So if it's Pine Grande up to Grey, if you're walking up, then Pine Grande would be your start. If you're coming from Grey, if you're doing west to east, if you're coming from Grey, then your starting point would be Grey, if that makes sense. So for this purpose, if I've already booked Chileno, Frances, and my next point would be Pine Grande, I would then click that I'm starting from Pine Grande. And then it goes, once completed your stay in Pine Grande, which of these accommodations would you go to? So then if I'm finishing in Grey, for example, I would then click Grey. If not, if I'm only stopping at Pine Grande, for example. So if I'm doing Chileno to Frances to Pine Grande and then finishing in Pine Grande, I'm not heading up to Grey, or maybe I am walking up to Grey but not staying in Grey, I would then just click yes, I want to choose my dates in the bottom here. So that means you would end your trip or like your stay in Pine Grande. Then it will ask you nights of stay in Pine Grande. You would then click the dates that you were on. So back to our initial date, if I already stayed in Chileno on the 10th and will be staying in Frances on the 11th, then that means my third night will be spent in Pine Grande. So I'll go ahead and click 12 to 13. So I'll be checking out on the 13th, and then type of accommodation, it will just show you what's available, which is the individual camping site, and then your additional services. So unlike Las Torres, it tells you that you can do fully equipped tents, or semi-boarding kind of service. This is different. You would book the campsite first, then you will add on like a sleeping bag, a tent, and breakfast and that kind of stuff. So it's sort of separated in terms of what you need to book instead of clicking like full, semi, and then individual pieces. I hope this makes sense, but have a read properly before you continue. So in this case, to book the exact thing that we booked in Las Torres, I will be clicking the sleeping bag, a tent, a mat, and obviously the camping site itself. So then you'll click continue after this, and it will load, and then it will tell you the breakdown of how much you've paid for and the total price here. Then you click continue. Again, if this doesn't come up for you, it means it's unavailable, like it's completely booked out. So then you'll have to readjust your dates again according to what works best for you. If you have all your campsites or refugios booked, congratulations, you've done the hard part. Now you'll know which direction you'll be hiking towards. So it's either east to west or west to east. You'll then know your entry point and exit point. So for example, we did the east to west hike. That means we took a bus from Puerto Natales, the closest town to Torres del Paine National Park, took that bus all the way to Central, and then from Central we caught a little shuttle again that took us to the starting point of the hike itself. And we exited through Paine Grande. So there are two ways to exit in the west. You would either exit from Paine Grande or Grey. In our case, we exited from Paine Grande, and both would be exiting through a ferry. So one ferry is like a catamaran, more like a local type of ferry, whereas if you were to exit from Grey, it would be sort of a scenic ferry that takes you around Glacier to have a look at that glacier before you leave, which is quite a nice treat, but it is very expensive. So in that case, we took the Paine Grande one. Once you leave Paine Grande in that ferry or the catamaran one, you would then be taken to a bus station again, or like a bus stop, and then that bus will take you back to Puerto Natales, which is your starting point from before. Then after all of this, your last thing that you need to do is pay for the national park fee, which I also covered in my video in Instagram. If you haven't seen it already, it has all the costs and the sequence of how we did everything too. So just make sure you check that out and know what you need to buy before heading into Torres del Paine National Park. I hope this was helpful to anyone who's planning a trip there. I know it can be quite complicated in terms of how you would book all of this. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I hope this video wasn't too messy and it was actually helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!